New studies have shown just how much inflation has impacted retirement savers. Today we're going to unpack all of that and how it's impacting the future of retirement and whether or not this is the new retirement crisis. All that and more on today's episode of The Retire Once Show. Hello and welcome to The Retire Once Show, the show designed to help you get to retirement, but most importantly, stay retired. I'm your host, Jonathan Rankin, the founder and CEO of Theorem Wealth Management. I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host.
Hi, I'm Melissa Rankin. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wow, we are back. We are ready with another jam-packed episode of retirement fun. So,
all the stuff you don't want to miss.
That's right. Before we do that, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're a part of this overall journey to help everybody get to a secure retirement. Make sure that you subscribe to our retirement newsletter.
Absolutely. That comes out once a week. You don't want to miss that.
You do not want to miss that. We share some good stuff every Friday. So there's a link right in the description below. You can click that, sign up, join the community. Let's do this. But today we are talking all about retirement crises.
Crises?
I think it's crises.
Yeah,
we are professional broadcasters. And so, just to talk about the ongoing retirement crisis, this is the one where 80% and in some statistics, 47 million households with older adults are financially struggling today or at risk of falling into economic insecurity as they age. So,
if that's not just a downer of a start there.
Welcome to the Retire One Show. Here we go. Yeah, 47 million people are in danger of economic insecurity. And nearly half, so 47% of seniors that have been surveyed rated their condition of retirement savings as either poor or 44% have said that you've not saved enough to retire comfortably. So there is this part of the retirement crisis that is out there. People are having a problem saving for retirement. I don't even want to call it a problem, but it's just what's going on.
It is a crisis, though.
It is a crisis. But today we're not talking about that one. We're going to talk about what we believe is a new retirement crisis based on some of the studies that we've come across lately.
Absolutely. So some of those studies show actually that Americans change their retirement savings due specifically to inflation. Mm-hmm. So some of the studies that we found that were, kind of big ones that pointed to it. TIAA found that 25% of U.S. workers cut back on their retirement savings just because of inflation. And half of those stopped saving altogether.
Yeah, those are big numbers.
None.
25% just cut back somehow, but 12.5% just stop saving.
Yep. Forget it.
Big numbers.
Which is actually not nearly as bad as the report from U.S. News and World Report that showed 50% of respondents in the survey had to pause their savings at some point in 2022. Altogether, just stop.
It's a lot of people.
41% stopped putting money in due to inflation, and 32% withdrew some of their money just to keep up with inflation.
Those numbers are kind of staggering to me. Now, I get it. There's always going to be an excuse to stop saving. And this is, I don't know, all 32% of these people.
Don't know all their
I don't know everybody's situation. That's a big number.
That is a big number.
That took money out to keep up with inflation. And, we're not here to tell people how to spend money or how to save it, but it's really it's figuring out the priorities. If retirement is a priority for you, then what else, did all 32% of those people make adjustments to their lifestyle to not have to dip into their retirement savings?
Was that really the last resort?
Now, I get it. Everything went up in price. Eggs, very expensive.
Toothpaste, the necessities.
McDonald's no longer is a discount food retailer. It seems like now it's expensive just to even go to McDonald's. So, everything has gotten more expensive. But did you go on vacation last year? Did you, were there things that money was spent on that, you could have sacrificed there as opposed to sacrificing in the retirement space? Because I get it. Last year was very easy to make the justification that taking money out of a 401k made sense. Think about it. The market was down over 20%. The NASDAQ was down well over 35%. So when you have a significant market drop, bonds were down 18%, in some cases.
That all around, realistically.
So you're losing money on one side. So that's a negative. And then everything else is getting more expensive. So you're getting hit on both sides. It's easy to think about, well, if I just take money out of my 401k, I'm going to stop losing money. and it's going to help me over here where
I have a little bit more to go buy all that stuff.
Exactly. And that even to me goes to the people who pause their savings or stop saving. Of course, when you are saving every single 2 weeks or every month or however often your 401k contribution is, and you're saving, and then you watch that amount go down because of the market, then you're thinking, eggs just went up 2 times. So I lost money over here.
Really stuck on the eggs here. I think they've seen the biggest impact. I mean, really.
Yeah, I think, well, that's what everybody's talking about is eggs. And so thank God Costco didn't really change their price of egg whites, which, I love. So, but those are things where, I get it. It makes sense, but there's always going to be some sort of reason to cut back. And to me, it's easy to get focused on right now and what's going on and ignore that long-term future. But it is important when thinking about retirement. Retirement is not about today. Retirement is about the next 20, 30, 40, hopefully 50 years down the road. And it's saving to get you to the point where when in 20 years from now, when we're having conversations about the retirement crisis at the time, that doesn't involve you. But it kind of reminds me of a point that I saw in one of these surveys that a 30-year-old with $50,000 today in a 401k who saves $400 a month, by the time they're 65, if they got a 6% rate of return, would have nearly $920,000. Now, if that same person stopped contributing for 5 years, so just 5 years over the next 35 years, they stopped contributing, the savings would drop by 27%. And she would only have under $667,000.
That's huge.
It's a very large amount of money when you think of $400 a month. And yeah, if she were to take out the money in this scenario, that $50,000, it'd be great. I guarantee you there's probably a good amount of use that money can go to. However, it's sacrificing that long-term, retirement.
Cool.
And I think that a lot of people, when the market goes down, it's easy to start thinking about right now. Especially with inflation. It's easy to be, with that being the number one headline, everybody talking about everything getting more expensive and the market going down. It's so easy to say, well, if everybody else is complaining about it, I can complain about it too, and I can have this impact me as well, when I just don't think it needs to be that way.
Well, it's easy to think about the right now of it. Mm-hmm. Like you said, retirement is for the future part of it. Hopefully these aren't things that you have to worry about in the future in retirement, but it's easy to get lost in that today.
It is. And then when you combine that savings pause, so all of those people who either stopped putting money in or withdrew money, and then you add on the fact that there was a recent study that found that 1 in 3 Americans fully cash out their 401ks when they switch jobs. And this is going to set up for a very difficult future of retirement for a lot of people. One of the studies that we found looked at, it's called 401k leakage. I really wish that they came up with a better term for this. Not my terminology.
I feel like there has to be a different word there.
Yeah, there has to be. But they showed $60 billion to up to $105 billion, which to me in a survey, can you get a little bit more specific? Because that's a very wide range. But that amount of money leaks out of 401ks every single year. Still don't like the
then
phrase.
You have to use it, yeah.
But when looking at how many people take money out of their plan when they're switching jobs, 41% cash out some money out of their 401ks, and 85% of those people, so 35% of people overall, cash out the entire 401k when they change jobs.
Whole thing.
The entire thing.
They take it as their little, parting gift, I guess.
They used to give you a gold watch. Now you just get your 401k and you just cash it out, I guess. But there was studies that show that the average 401k participant will have 9.9 jobs in their lifetime.
The 0.9?
Yeah, I would like to. How do I apply for the 0.9 job?
I want that job.
No, the 0.9 job, to me, those are the people who are having 2 jobs right now since COVID because they stayed at home and they were working 2 different jobs while their boss didn't realize they were taking on second jobs. Maybe that's what that is. But that's 14.8 million people with 401ks that are switching jobs each year. So if you take 35% of those people that are cashing out completely, that's a lot of people just not thinking about the long-term impact to retirement.
It's a huge number of people not thinking about it.
It is. And, for those who don't know, we actually did a entire video on how this could impact the long-term future of retirement. We'll make sure to link to that right here.
You don't want to miss that.
No, you got to check that out. So, they did find that the lower the 401k balance, the more likely that the saver is to take a taxable distribution. So depending on how often you change jobs, 9.9 jobs in a lifetime. We just start running the math. If you have a job every, 3 or 4 years, that's a 30-year career.
What are the distribution rules for those that don't know before we get too into, all the switching of the jobs?
So for those who don't know, if you take out a taxable distribution, so if you leave your job and you cash out that 401k, well, you're subject to ordinary income tax, so whatever your tax bracket is. And if you're under the age of 59 and a half, then you could be subject to a 10% penalty on top of that. So if you think about, depending on how much money you make per year, you add on, a lump sum to that number, that could push you into a much higher tax bracket, plus the penalty. So you could look at anywhere between 35 up to 45% just in taxes on the federal level, not including state taxes. Imagine if you live in a place like California with a 10 or 12 or 13% income tax rate just on the state side. You're looking at over 50% just in taxes for a distribution. And now I get it. When you leave a job and you go, oh, okay, there's only $20,000 there, $30,000. It's easy to think about, well, what can that $20,000 go to right now? This may be the new signing bonus at the new job. A lot of people think of, they do, everybody frames, a company match as free money. So you think of, we do. We tell people, don't give up that free money. Well, when you leave your job, this is the first time you can actually technically get your hands on that free money. So a lot of people look at it as, well, now I can finally get the money that was given to me.
It's like their justification of it.
So, you think about $20,000 or 30 or 50, that might not be enough to even cover 1 year of your retirement lifestyle right now. But if you're talking about in 20 or 30 years, the compounding effect, by continuously cashing those out, we're going to see long-term ramifications if that continues. So.
Not to mention you have to keep starting over. Like the girl with the example, if she stopped for 5 years. And that's just if she stopped and picked it back up, not if she just kept taking it out and taking it out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's why it shows that more people with lower balances will cash theirs out. So if you're cashing it out every 3 or 4 years when you're changing jobs, it's never getting to that amount where in your mind you think, I've got a lot of money there. But if you were to think about how many different 401ks you've cashed out over a 20-year career, and you go, man, if I would have just kept all of that, let it compound and invest, that's a lot of money.
So what should you do instead of cashing it out?
So you have a couple different options. So obviously cashing it out, it is an option.
It's an option.
It's an option that you have. And unfortunately, a lot of plan sponsors, what they do is if your balance is less than $5,000, they sometimes automatically cash it out for you if you don't respond. So you have 3 different options that's not cashing it out. Cashing out's one. We're going to just put that as the aside as that's your worst case scenario. Hopefully you don't have to do that. So you can keep it in your old plan. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You can just leave it where it is. The only downside is, while you were an employee, they might have been picking up some of the fees there. So you want to make sure that you understand what those are. Trying to make sure you remember to actually monitor that account.
Oh, that's
we talked about before that, the amount of lost 401ks, as they called it, just forgotten about. So you just want to remember you have that money there. Don't forget to, how you're invested there. So just, are you able to continue to manage that? So that's one, leave it at your old plan. If you're going to a new company that offers a 401k, you can move it into that plan. You can just easily call up one. They're going to move it over to the other. It makes it very simple. You can manage it all into one login. So that
then
way
you get to see it all together.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other one is you can roll it over into an IRA. So this is where you can manage it on your own. You can work with advisors like us. You just want to make sure you understand all the different options that are available to you. But cashing it out should be the last option. It's going to be the most expensive for you, especially because of taxes and possible penalties. And it's that long-term impact. Nobody wants to go through a retirement crisis.
Of course not.
As retirement advisors, we don't want to see that. We want to help as many people as we can achieve their retirement goals
happily.
yeah, we don't, we never want to talk to clients when they're 80 years old to see if ChatGPT can help them put together a resume. Like, look, I don't want to do that. I just want, I want people to retire and not have to worry about money, but it starts decades before you're retired. This isn't something that, it's almost like the amount of times that I've had people contact me over the almost 20, going on 20 years to do this is, what can I do about taxes in retirement when you're already retired? Well, and you just look and go, not much.
Yeah, you're already in it.
You're there. It's not much you can do from a tax standpoint, but when you're starting to plan years in advance, you can do a lot more. So those are just the 3 things you could do that are not cashing out. So hopefully you can
avoid that.
Avoid cashing out because, like I mentioned, when you combine the investment losses on one side, rising costs of everything else on the other, it's easy to see why people are cashing out their savings or just stopping their savings or just questioning retirement in general. But I would say, just try to be patient. Retirement is a long game.
Try not to get lost in the negativity of it all right now.
Exactly.
It's interesting that you say that people questioning it, because there was actually a study that said 82% of participants are worried about future recession affecting their retirement plan and savings altogether. 82%.
Yeah. Okay. But how many years have people not really been worried about a recession? I mean, since 2009, when the global financial crisis ended, every single year after that, for at least 4 or 5 years, everybody was expecting that, the next big one's coming. The Fed's going to stop raising or keeping low interest rates, and the world's going to fall apart. We're going to go into another recession. Then you had the pandemic, 2021. It was a great year, but a lot of people are still anticipating that, this can't last forever.
It's like everybody's holding their breath.
Always. There's never been a time where there's always just good news. And
it's usually the opposite.
It always is the opposite. That's why I don't even like watching the news.
Yes.
And because it's never good. And so I get that people are worried about a future recession, but recessions are going to happen. Recessions typically, they're going to be short-term in nature, let's hope, anywhere between 1 to 3 years, hopefully a little shorter than that. But long-term, it shouldn't impact your saving strategy, shouldn't impact your investment strategy. What I would worry about if you're worried about a future recession is your job okay? Do you have an emergency fund if something happens to your employment? That's what happens in a recession, is that companies cut back. We're seeing that with large technology companies now where they're starting to lay off thousands of employees. Those are people I worry about. If you're investing for retirement, you got a 20-year time frame, that's not something I would worry about. Which
actually, that kind of goes into the point of the same study. 57% of people report losing sleep at night and stress just in general. Over half of those. I mean, it makes sense because you see so much negativity.
It does. And like I said, last year was a really tough year. It was one out of 3 years in the history of the market that we've seen significant losses in bonds and in stocks. So last year was a tough year. And then all the talk around a recession. I mean, recession's coming. Are we in one? Are we not? Can we just get this thing over with? Because I feel like it's the most anticipated recession we've ever seen. Everybody's anticipating it. And it's just, can we just get there? Can we just get this thing over with? So what can you do if you're worried about inflation, if you are watching your investments go down because of the market? Well, just some of the takeaways. If you're watching this, you wonder, okay, what can you do? I would think about making some lifestyle changes versus savings reductions. And this goes into prioritizing, is retirement important to you? And for some people, it may not be. And that's completely okay. This isn't us saying
different.
That, you have to be focused on retirement. Do you? Live your life. Enjoy it.
You?
I'm sorry. I made that. But
the theme of today's show.
Exactly. We should just title this one, Do You? We're not here to tell people that, don't go on vacation so you can save for retirement. If retirement's not a priority, that's okay. But there are some times that, like we tell our kids, you can't have both. You got to make a decision. And right now, when things are getting tough in the market and in the economy and with inflation, there are tough decisions that have to be made. Do you want to spend more on goods that you need or don't need? Or do you want to save for retirement? And if you want to take out from the retirement savings, I would make sure that you're fully understanding the long-term ramifications of that. So if Absolutely. That's a thought of yours, we'd be happy to at least walk you through a retirement analysis for your specific retirement, and make sure that you understand what is the decision today. How is that going to impact you 10, 15, 20 years down the road? That's what a lot of people don't do. They don't think about, okay, I'm making a decision today. What is it going to do for me 25 years from now? Well, let's go through those scenarios. That's where we want to help people. This is what we're really trying to do right now, is make sure that people are avoiding making major decisions. Don't cash out your 401k. That's another one. Don't cash it out if you're changing jobs.
Yeah, especially if you're changing jobs.
Think about, if you're changing jobs, of course, nobody leaves a job today to start a new job and immediately thinks, well, yeah, I'm not going to worry about the excitement from the new job. I'm just going to think about, when am I quitting this job to retire?
Right.
You're starting a new job, so I get it. But try not to cash out. If you're thinking about it, let's go through that analysis of what does that look like long term. And then lastly, don't bail on your investment strategy because of volatility. I had a conversation recently where somebody asked me, well, I'm worried about the market. I've got 12 years to retirement, and I think I'm just going to put everything in safe investments because I'm tired of watching it go down. You got 12 years until you retire. We don't guarantee anything on the show. This is not a guarantee, but I'm going to, in my mind, believe that there's a very high degree of certainty that the market's going to be higher 12 years from now. I would really hope so. It's not, this has been a very big retirement crisis that we're going to see, but bailing on your investment strategy when you have such a long-term time horizon. So think about the long term. Every time that you're investing right now, you're putting money to work in the largest companies in the world. I guarantee you, every single one of those companies are going to figure out how to handle inflation. They're going to figure out how to navigate the geopolitical climate of Ukraine and Russia. And I guarantee you, they're all going to figure out how to handle the election of next year. We haven't even started that, but I guarantee you, we're going to have a show on that one. Stay tuned, because it's going to come up, because I get the question every 2 years. How is the election going to impact the markets? So we'll get to that. I'll go on that rant later on. But I would just say, don't make any major investment changes because of what's going on now if you have a long-term time frame. If you worry that you're misaligned right now with how you should be allocated, reach out to us. Use the button below. Let's schedule some time to go through the investment side of it, the planning side. We're here to help. And with that, what do we want people to do before they get out of here?
We want you to subscribe. We want you to never miss one of these episodes, but we also want you to subscribe to the weekly newsletter.
That's right. Subscribe to the newsletter. Let's get in touch every single week. Join our community. And with that, I'm Jonathan Rankin.
And I'm Melissa Rankin. Thank you so much for joining us.